It was another chaotic game week in the Premier League. We have got three big topics on the agenda today, and we have got to start, of course, at Anfield. City, a terrible, terrible record, but they grinded out a win. They found a way to get the 3 points when they needed it most. Jamie, are you buzzing? Well, how buzzing are you? How much does this win mean to Man City?
This is a massive win because I think they've shown it so much times. Like our record at Anfield is awful, is utterly awful, and I think they said it. I think it was 83 years, or might have been 93 years since we'd last done the league double over them. So that's how big of a sort of win this really is in terms of just all history. Our record at Anfield is terrible. It's sort of I think it's two. It was two wins in the last 23 plus something like that. That's shocking. Like there are teams that are much lower down than City, a lot worse than City, with better records than that. So for that reason, it's absolutely massive. And for what was kind of said after the game, really makes it why it's so important. She had Silva and I think it was Rodri, or I think it might have been Haaland, who sort of said, if we didn't win this game, lost this game, that's the title done. We're not getting back from this. And this is what was being said all over sort of, socials, Sky Sports, really. God, if we go 9 points behind, that's basically it. It's basically done because they don't think Arsenal will drop that many points and City to win every single game. So that's where I think it is a massive, massive win. And also, it's our first points, just points in general, from a losing position this season. And that's something I've been sort of critical of City with. People say we've got this mentality, but we're a very different team that's won, the trebles, the four in a row. Do they have the mentality? And they have to do this more often. They can't just do, once a whole season. It's going to have to happen more times than just once. But to show they can do it is refreshing to see, especially in the second half, where if you haven't seen the table, we would be top of the league by I think it's like 12 points if the Premier League ended in the first half, and we're something like eighth in the second half, which is just sort of mental for it. So it shows this is a big, big and historic win for City, and to do it from coming from behind is even sweeter, better, and you know I think it adds to the hype that you're going to see in the media and socials about the win because it's from coming from behind.
Well, it's just reviving confidence, I think, to be honest. Like, you look at City recently and you just feel like they've lost that aura, they've lost that belief that they've had for so many years to win back-to-back titles constantly. So I think it's not just a big win for history, it's not just a big win for the race. I think mentally that will do all the City players, it will do everyone the absolute world of good. Because as you said, I think everyone was in the camp of if City win today, it's still just about alive. If you don't win, title's cooked. And I think most people would have agreed with that.
Was it
Um,
something I said to us? I said to you in our chat before the game. I said I feel like City have been a bit disrespected by everyone out there because it was sort of like everyone went City are going to lose. I saw say some people going City are going to get thumped, like they're going to get absolutely battered. And this Liverpool side aren't the Liverpool side of last year or the sort of team under Klopp. They aren't as good of a side. And I said this is probably the worst City Liverpool game in terms of quality for the past 8, 9 years. So I think City people wrote off City a bit too quickly. Jamie Carragher was one of them in the before the game said I'd be surprised if City win. Don't worry, that's been retweeted out quite a lot over City accounts. But yeah, so I do feel like City were a bit disrespected in before coming into this game. Now I said I wasn't confident, but I didn't think it was a foregone conclusion we were going to lose.
yeah, I mean, you look at the history, you look at the form, you look at how you've defended. I don't think it's an outrageous thing to say, but that's completely ignoring how bad Liverpool have been. Same point we made with City. This isn't the Liverpool of old at all. This is Liverpool, and we'll get on to Slot and his questionable subs and tactics because, again, a lot of people are turning on him now. A lot of, I say a lot, maybe, the negative people are always the loudest as we see. So maybe not a lot, but a high number, let's say, of Liverpool fans right now are really turning on Slot and questioning what he's doing. Did he? I know it sounds really harsh to say when you don't really get lucky to win the Premier League, but is he out of ideas now? Reece, what did you make of the game and the comeback from an Arsenal perspective?
Yeah, there was a lot riding on the game because obviously Liverpool need to close the gap on not just Chelsea in fifth, but United in fourth. Um, and for City, of course, is to close the gap back to 6 points. And this was, yeah, this it looked like a game. Both teams were doing really well. Both teams had their chances. Again, yeah, you could argue City were better in the first half. In the second half, Liverpool pushed on. Um, but overall, City did deserve the win. Um, it wasn't just the comeback, but it's the fact that Szoboszlai scored in the 74th minute and City still went on to go and win that game is more impressive to me. Do Arsenal come back if Szoboszlai scores that goal? Funnily enough, he scored a free kick as well against Arsenal at Anfield, but that was later in the game. Do Arsenal come back in that game? No, they don't. 1-0 down, that's it, done. That's the difference for me. And this is why I always maintain that City will win the league. Those celebrations after this game were not relief. You saw the mentality switch. They know they're chasing Arsenal, and we know that Arsenal crumble, and they will crumble because going to Brentford for Arsenal in the week is a horrible situation for them. They've only lost twice at home in the league, and now Arsenal know that when it comes to the pressure, these are the games they buckle. So this is an awful situation because to me, 6 points is as dangerous as a 2 goal lead. You know, how many times you see teams come back from 2-0 down? This is a horrible situation for Arsenal because every game they have no choice but to win. But overall, from a City perspective, it was a great performance and a great comeback. And like I said, they looked like they were going to equalise, even after 74 minutes. That's how impressive to me they were, and they got that goal because they have those players, they have that mentality to do it, and fair play. But pressure's on Slot because if he doesn't get top four or top five, in this case, I fear he might lose his job. But for City, they're doing exactly what they do best. They know how to chase down the pack. It's like wild dogs now going after a bunch of kittens. It's not looking good for Arsenal, in my opinion, because they've got horrible fixtures coming up.
I look, City still have a tougher run in, right? City still have the worst run in compared to
Oh,
Arsenal.
no, they do not.
They
Arsenal are
do.
not going to go to West Ham and get 3 points. They've got Spurs still to go, and you can laugh at Spurs all you want. Different game.
You just
Chelsea at home
named you
still
just
got.
named two of the worst teams in the league right now. I
Yeah,
think you'll be
and who
right.
do Arsenal drop points against? Do you remember when we had this conversation in 2023? I told you they would not beat West Ham, and West Ham beat them.
It's a
Drew with
different
them.
league.
Sorry, completely. It's not. Arsenal are not
It
winning
is.
anything come this season, and that League Cup final is the biggest psychological battle for these two teams now because whoever wins that will have a detrimental effect overall. But let's not take this away from City's general performance. It was good. However, the chaos that happened in that stoppage time was it was good fun. That's for sure.
Good
Yeah.
fun for you, maybe. I'm there sweating over VAR calls. Like, this is at Anfield. I just imagined there was a penalty to Liverpool. That's what I was imagining. That's what I thought would just happen because that's what happens at Anfield at times. It was just going to be no. There's no goal here. Don't worry about that. I don't care what Szoboszlai did or Haaland did. It's just a penalty down there. Just give him a goal. Right at the end. But look, jokes aside, in that sort of thing, I feel like this is where, because we won, I'm not as fuming. If this was sort of, to go and win 2-1 that goal, because this was obviously the third, I'd be absolutely fuming. But this is where the referees can't win. Because everyone goes, a bit of common sense here, bit of common sense there. But I do actually believe the refs have got it right because it is a foul by Szoboszlai to stop Haaland running through by pulling his shirt. And it was a foul by Haaland pulling Szoboszlai to not allow him to get the ball from trickling in from Turkey. So really you go, well, there's an advantage if the ball went in the back of the net, but Haaland's then made a foul. So really it should go back and it should be a red card to Szoboszlai. And with the referees, it's kind of like, well, Szoboszlai's made this offence, he should be off, and he's now being punished by not being available for the next 3 games. That's his biggest sort of he could have kind of just gone. There's 10 seconds left. I think it was 15 seconds left after that free kick. Do you need to even bother? Is one goal difference actually any matter? But
Well,
yeah,
no, I think there's nothing wrong with Spurs like giving it all regardless, even if there's no hope. I don't mind him doing it.
but it's
But
a
I
silly
mean,
red card as well in a
awful
way.
awful game in order the fact that he scores that brilliant free kick and then gets sent off. I mean, like you said, is the referees have to follow the rules, right? Szoboszlai, they both fouled each other in the race for the ball. And then as you know, it sort of cancelled out City's advantage as well. It was pretty crazy, and this is where there are so many layers to these rules. The decision made was correct. I get annoyed when people say, "Oh, they should have given the goal." I don't think Gary Neville was necessarily saying that. When Coventry got that offside goal in the FA Cup against Man United, do you remember? And they said you have to follow the rules. You know, Haaland saying the ref has to follow the rules. It's right, but and now he's saying there's sympathy. Would he have been saying that if this incident happened in the 65th minute? I doubt that very, very much. So it's a red card.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but I don't see why we have to keep giving the advantage. Football is not for being nice. These are the players that tell you to get stuck in and have it, but then they want you to all be really nice to each other. Come on, like, what do you want?
Well, I think it's a rare example of a decision where both teams are not happy with it. City because they obviously don't want the sweat, and Liverpool because with 10 seconds left, you'd actually rather lose 3-1 and have Soboslai, who's been one of their best players for 3 games. So, I mean, perfect definition of you can't win, everyone's unhappy, but it's a weird way to play out. And Jamie, I can only imagine what you'd be saying now if it was 1-0 and that got disallowed, and it would be absolute outroar. Everyone's saying corruption, all of that. But it's the right decision, even though it played out in a weird way. So credit to the refs, maybe. Maybe we can say that for a change. I don't know. But yeah, what a game it was. Um, let's move on slightly lower in the table, and we've got to talk about Newcastle. I think that's been one of the major talking points of the weekend, to be honest. Newcastle without a Premier League win for just over a month now since that epic comeback at home to Leeds. 12th position in the table for the richest club in England, in world football at the minute, arguably. Um, is Eddie Howe under pressure?
Absolutely, he is because look, I think people got a bit too giddy with sort of calling him out after losing to City in sort of two legs. Okay, you lost in both, but you're playing City. Like there should be no sort of we're going to win that. Even the most sort of optimistic Newcastle fans would probably go, let's try and win at home. We'll probably lose away in that. And I think over the two legs, City were the better team, but Newcastle still had a go. And we were saying it, if it wasn't sort of 5-0 after the sort of on aggregate after the 20th minute, Newcastle had a lot of chances still to score. But I watched the Newcastle Brentford game, and they were rubbish. I really don't think this Brentford side are anything special. I really don't. I know Reece is sort of saying it's a tough place to go, but they are a different team at home and away. Same like Newcastle are. But this Brentford team aren't that good, and when you're at Newcastle, Newcastle should be looking to be the much dominant team. And when I kept watching, I was like, you know what? Brentford looked more likely to score. And I felt that throughout the whole game. And even when Newcastle scored twice, I still was like, okay, maybe you can go and win it now. It's at 2-2. But they never really looked on top. From my opinion, Brentford looked fairly comfortable. There's moments, and then when they went attacking wise, they were so dangerous. So I think Brentford were really good. I don't rate them as a team, to be honest, but they were very good that day. But Newcastle, there's a big problem there, and I don't think you can blame FFP for the amount they've spent. There are some injuries, but I still think Eddie Howe. Sorry,
Yeah,
wrong
Eddie
name.
Hearn.
Eddie Hearn. I've been listening to boxing too much. but that he must be under pressure because it's not good enough for what the owners will want from him. Because they could lose a lot of players in the summer as well.
Well, I think Eddie Howe answered it right. Of he's always under pressure. Every head coach, every manager is under pressure. This is the way the game is. Um, I think I think he's also got a very good squad at his hand who are very professional kind of players. I know Trippier made it clear that the players take responsibility. The likes of him, Bruno, Joelinton, they're very level-headed guys. So he's got a lot of protection there. He's not got players who are going to throw him under the bus. The tone was set in the summer, with the recruitment and Isaac going on strike. I don't think the recruitment was necessarily bad, but of course it could have been more organised because there's no sporting director. I'm sure that will change. Um, I would argue, yeah, I think maybe since the League Cup win, have we seen the Newcastle that we've seen over the last few years? I've made this clear that they still spent money to get in that situation and they continue to spend money, even if there's FFP regulations or not. But that's not me discrediting how I think he's achieved brilliantly. And I think he turns a lot of players who appear average on paper into very, very good players. The League Cup win, I think, gives him a lot of breathing room. But in football, you can't keep looking back on the past. A lot of clubs are guilty of that and they get left behind in the future. But I don't think it's right to be considering his future because I think the summer is an opportunity to refresh and freshen things up. This isn't the worst season in the world for Newcastle. Granted, poor performance against Brentford, and I felt that the performance against Sunderland in December was very, very poor. But we know they're more than capable of bouncing back. They've got the players to do it. They've got a coach to do it who can install that mentality. Yes, this is one of them downer seasons, but didn't Aston Villa have those a couple of years ago when, Emery got off to a good start? City had it when they won one of the leagues and fell, Liverpool as well. Don't decide to tip the boat over. Keep it steady for as long as you can. You'll know when you can't take the club any further. But now's not the time to be discussing it because I think there's a lot of room to fix things when the season goes. And if they secure a top half finish, take it. I think that's good enough. Semi-final in the Carabao Cup as well. It's fine. Still in the FA Cup too.
I don't know. I don't fully agree with that. I just think I know there's FFP limits and that's the excuse that always gets thrown out, but I'm pretty sure they still spent about 250 mil in the summer. Obviously, yes, they sold Isak as we know, but and then look, when we are saying 12th position, although that is the current table, we can slate them now and they'll go on a winning streak of 5 games and suddenly they're in the conversation for Europe. We know how it works, but as you look at it right now, out the Carabao Cup, 12th place in the league. Yes, there's a couple of injuries, but again, you know, Shaw's the only real major one, I'd argue. There's a couple of minor injuries, of course, but I don't think if the league stopped now, I don't think there's any praise that you can give Eddie Howe. Do you know what I mean? That's the way I see it. Like, Newcastle cannot win the League Cup and then finish 12th and say that they're moving forward as a club. Like, this is a club who people are compared to Man City. They've burst on the scene, chucking a load of cash. Like, you want to see some form of progress. And I
I think
think for
that's
them
not
finishing
us.
12th would be a disaster.
I don't think it'd be a disaster because they're also a club that has a lot of potential to bounce back. They're not in a situation of, say, I mean, Sunderland aren't in a situation, but their model is similar to Palace. Find hidden gems, sell them for a profit. Eventually that will catch up with you. Newcastle don't have that issue. I think at the moment, Newcastle just have an issue. They just need to bring in a sporting director, get themselves a little bit more organised. That's all it is. Because they don't, yes, they've got money and FFP regulations, but they're good at finding our talent. Eddie Howe's excellent at turning players into brilliant ones. Just got to keep doing that. You know, it's just, I think the summer really set them on the back foot a bit, with the Isaac strike and how long that took. And they didn't necessarily have a replacement lined up when they probably should have done. Um, and that's not a criticism. It's football. I get it. There are a lot of clubs that behave like that, but they're in great position to bounce back. That's the thing. This isn't a crisis bottom three. You know, everyone's looking to jump ship. There's a lot of potential still at this club.
I do think the Isak departure is a big loss to him because he was scoring a lot of goals, and that's what they seem to be, in my opinion. That's what they're lacking a bit compared to what they had with Isak there, because they were the fourth. I think it was the fourth or fifth top goal scorers last season. And they were sort of. I think they were second or third the year before. So they used to score a lot of goals, and the guy who scored most of them has gone. So it is, and it's very hard to replace that. There is not a huge pool of talent of strikers. We're seeing it at all clubs sort of around the world. Sort of they're struggling to find, the proper strikers that they want. And the way that the game's going, football's changed. It's not, you don't have your sort of normal strikers. So I do feel like that is difficult to replace. And that's probably what's making them struggle. Because they've actually done quite well in the Champions League. I know they didn't get top 8 in the end. But, they took it down to the last game and they were in the top 8 before playing PSG away. And they didn't embarrass themselves in that game by getting a draw there. It was a very good draw. I know it didn't help them. But it's not all doom and gloom. I do agree. I do think the Brentford game was a poor performance. But I don't see where he can take them further. I think he's done better than I actually expected, winning a cup. I didn't think he'd win a cup with Newcastle. So maybe it does give him the rest of this season, a summer, and then you've got to do something. It might be a bit like what Arsenal say with Arteta. It's kind of like, if he doesn't win anything this year, I think a pop probably be like, right, thank you very much. We need to bring in someone who's going to get us further. So that could be the situation. Maybe it's not now. It might be a year's time with him.
Yeah, I think there's a very, very small section of the fan base saying sack him now. I think that's a little bit premature, but again, he's probably earned the right absolutely for this season, maybe next season because of the Carabao Cup win. But Isak's gone. Yes, that was an issue, but then they've dropped what 70 plus 55 mil, 125 mil on two strikers. You can't plead FFP poverty. Oh, get the violins out. You've gone and spent 125 million pounds on two strikers. Yes, you can give them some time. I mean, you don't. They don't need time, right? Wiss is in the Prem doing well. Walter Minded, to be fair, I think he's been quite good. So yes, that caused him issues, but you can only get so far with that excuse, in my opinion. So I think, yeah, give him a season or two, but he's absolutely under pressure for me. Um, let's move on to our last and final point. United, Man United. You can call it a new manager bounce, Carrick a magician. Are we finally going to see the end of this idiot's haircut? No disrespect, by the way, he's done absolutely unbelievable. Great concept. Yeah, he's marketed himself well. Everyone knows who he is. So respect to the United strand. But are we finally going to see his haircut?
It would be absolutely comical if he doesn't. Because you look at the run, you've got Arsenal, City, Spurs, and who's the other one? Fulham. And you go, right, we've got to the final one, and then they go and don't beat West Ham. Utter brilliant for me, but that is because I want United to do as badly as possible. In terms of it for the guy, he really does need a haircut. I believe he's doing the sort of he's going to be selling it off for charity or something like that, which is quite a good touch, everything like that. And to be honest, he seems like an all right guy from what I've seen. It does look likely. Yes, it could be a manager bounce. They are also playing one game a week compared to a lot of other clubs who are now playing, every midweek and after. So this could be where they actually fall because they're playing midweek away from home. But the game against Spurs, I think, was very easy. Once Spurs went down to 10 men, it was kind of right. Can Spurs hold on for a 0-0 draw, or will United win? And United, battered Spurs, could have scored more. There's no sort of fault at the moment with Carrick because he's done exactly what he's needed to, and he's tried to make everyone happier. A bit like a Southgate, what he did for England. Make the group happier, feel a bit more connected, and performances will improve. And I think that's what he's done, and he's done it actually really well, sadly, in my point of view. But yeah, can't fault him at all. Been very, very
Some
good.
of the wins in there. I mean, three of the top six. three of those in that run, absolutely unreal.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're on day 491 of the United strand, so it doesn't look like he's going to get to the 500 mark. It looks like he's going to finally end it, and good luck to him. Um, I think the guy's done great. On the top of this conversation, yeah, look, United are rolling. This is very much an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer effect, um, where he came in and this is what they needed. Bring in an old player who can help in the short term and then be ready to take over in the summer. The thing they did wrong with Ollie is they kept him for too long. He should have been a short term issue. And I believe they won't make this mistakes a bit of a harsh word with Carrick. I believe Carrick will leave in the summer. Whether he stays on in the backroom staff is to be decided. 4 wins from four, beating City, going away to Arsenal and getting the win, coming back late against Fulham. Very, very, very impressive. And it's all down to him and how he's changed it because those players are there and they're good. They've got a good result against Spurs as well. This is what we were expecting to see for a long time, and this is what we're now seeing. And United look like they can cement themselves for a top four, which would be an outstanding achievement considering where they were. Um, I think we're seeing things different. Like I said, they come back against Fulham so late. Would the United team under Amorim have done that? Probably not. They would have probably have been a draw or would have lost that game. So there's a lot of positives here, and we're seeing the team playing to its potential, what we expected to see, and I think it will continue. But at the end of the day, like I said, this is a short term thing. They've got the summer to be looking towards, but if they bring in the right coach with these players, things are looking very, very good. 4 from 4, you can't ask for any more than that.
Well, if he carries on, I forget the short term thing. You've got to give him the appointment. If he
No,
gets top four for them,
no,
you have to.
no, no part time or caretaker coach ever succeeds when they get the job full time. It never happens. And this will be no exception because it doesn't work. Because when you become full time, your responsibilities, etc., change and there's more expectation on you. And I don't think Carrick even wants the job full time. I think he's been pretty okay with the coaching side of it. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him on the backroom stuff. But you don't ever give the part time the full time role. It doesn't work like that in football.
All right. There's a pub quiz for everyone watching. Is there a caretaker manager who has successfully gone on to get the job and actually do well? But look, that's all we got time for this episode. As always, we want to hear from you. Hit us up below. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.